talking about before you came in was just organizing very simple things like ways of buying bulk film.
Right.
You know, or ways of getting equipment, or getting to production houses that have equipment that wouldn't accept us as individuals, but would accept us as a corporation.
So,
You know, just a very functional. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think that it could function as a union, but to call it a union would be sort of restrictive because of the concept of a union, and it could do much more than a union, you know. Well,
I mean, unions do a lot.
pardon me?
Unions do a lot.
No, they do, I know. Well,
These are incorporated anyway.
they are, yeah, they usually are. But no, it's just when I think of a union, it seems more oriented towards workers' benefits and pay, right? But not specifically towards production and you know material accumulation, which is part of what art is involved with. It's production and accumulation and distribution of material and information. And I mean, you could say we could have a union.
To establish a union falls under an entirely different set of regulations about behavior and
Yeah, of the corporation.
everything in the corporation. I think it's more complicated.
It's basic broader, potential is broader. It's definitely-
Not necessarily.
Definition of what we are is much clearer and more accurate.
What is a union? Well, I mean, I don't know.
I mean, our needs are.
I can't.
You say that a union is a broader base than a corporation.
Yeah.
I would tend to agree with you on that.
And greater cloud.
Yeah. Just in terms of
How do you define the membership of a corporation?
yeah, the membership of a corporation deals basically on the shareholders, stockholders, and then the officers.
That's a good point.
That's non-profit also.
Right. Well, the thing is that essentially the members are the stockholders, the members are the stock, and the members.
The members are due payers, and you see people benefit from the production of their dues. How do you define who gets what in a corporation, and who joins a corporation on what basis?
Well, it depends on what the goals of the corporation are. That's what we're here to try and deal with. I think that's more important really than whatever it is we're going to call it. And since a union is is formed as a corporation, what we're trying to do is define what it is we want to happen. I mean, I don't want to argue about one structure versus another, but more just like try and have us develop here justice, not on, yeah, we have to develop a structure and we, at the same time, I suppose, have to decide what it is that we want the structure to do for us. I mean, part of unionization seems to involve itself with having demands and having them met by other places, and I think that for the time being at least we should concentrate on our own demands and what it is that we can do to satisfy them within the group as opposed to these external things.
So you assume it's actually a group, but that's not particularly
No,
true in actual fact, because before you defined it as what it wasn't. I mean, that's not saying what a group is, you know.
No,
I mean, like left of John Birch Society, there's a whole mass of things.
Right. Okay. But at the moment we're grouped together by the location. Generally, we're a group of people to anybody outside of the room. We're a group of people.
Well, in actual fact, what you're trying to set up is a sort of interest lobbying group, and you have to be pretty concrete about what the interest you're lobbying for is. And before you can find what that's
Lobbying for to whom?
Well, I mean, if you get the money or sort of.
You're talking more like a, in terms
No,
of a
I
union.
think, I see
No,
that
specifically,
I
I
see
mean, I can
that.
obviously log in somebody if you want to get a cheaper film or equipment, I mean, they still have to be persuaded.
No, I don't, that's not necessarily lobbying, it's just a matter of getting on the telephone and calling some, 100 people up and finding out what the story is. It's a matter of having somebody in this group decide to be responsible for dealing with the mundane bullshit of finding where's the cheapest film.
It's an organization-based group. That's like, we need to deal with mundane bullshit.
Yeah, a lot of that, and I mean, there are a lot of ideas that, that I think that we all have about things that we need, like very specific things that you might have needed or wanted within the last week, right? That maybe somebody in this group could help you with, either tell you where to get it or do something for you. I mean, things like that that are more immediate, and that we should, I think getting what we want to have to do done is a positive kind of goal. I mean, just,
I'd be interested in something that involves a maximum of getting things done and a minimum of talking, just like pure practical business
absolutely.
sort of matters.
I mean, I think that's,
Maybe everybody should write down or say what they see, how the group would function for them, and everybody can discuss whether they like that idea.
Basically, goals and costs and responsibilities. Like, what kind of tax structure would you offer?
well, it would be nonprofit, and hopefully at some point it could be tax exempt so that it would be to some real estate guy's advantage to give us a building because he could use the whole thing as a tax write-off.
It could be like the clock tower.
Well, I don't think that we would be like the clock tower. I mean, I don't think that I'm like
I think
those
that if-
people, and I don't think any of these other
Yeah,
people
but you aren't going to be
are
the one who's
either.
running it by the time it gets to that side. It's going to be a bureaucrat that's going to be running it.
Yeah, but
Well,
it's
that
going
has
to
to be
be,
organized so that.
if it is a bureaucrat, it would be a bureaucrat that we would hire as a group,
Rotating
right?
bureaucracy.
And it wouldn't be a situation where they're hiring us for $50 a shot to do cheap shit. It would be
Well,
different,
we pay
it's
some
like,
services
it's
that
an
would be
opposite
subsidized.
situation. And
Yeah.
that's what, I think that we should turn the table, so to speak. And it doesn't mean like attacking the institutions that exist, but forming our own thing that works for us. And if it really works for us as a group, it can work for other people as well, which addresses itself to because it would have an open membership.
That's what I was gonna ask.
Yeah.
You determine the membership by anybody who wants to join.
Yeah, if we can start something that has enough, integrity and energy to begin with, it will be able to take in more people. And it's not a simple thing that we're trying, that we would be trying to solve. I haven't heard any commitments from anybody to do it, so when I say what we're trying to do, it's purely projected.
I'm interested.
Well,
I had been, just to throw this out, looking at a space on Greenwich Canal. It's a ground floor basement, 1,900 square feet on the ground floor. Say 1,000 square feet of basement, as you like. The total rent is $350 a month. Okay. I need a place to live, essentially. I mean, like on Slack or you. What I was thinking of was to take like 900 square feet on the back floor, back of the ground floor, so skylight there, total wall across, leave 1,000 square feet in the front, like gallery, performance space, whatever for the community, and the basement also facilities for editing or whatever. And the rent on that would be $150 a month, and I pay $200 a month. So conceivably, then what we could do is that if we throw 4 performances a month, and charge dollars, you know.
Well, see, that would be the kind of program that if we had this thing already,
Right.
that you could propose and develop and get
Right.
funding for some way or another. Right? I don't know how that would happen.
No, I
I
think,
mean,
yeah.
but at this point, that kind of thing doesn't seem like an immediate.
I think that it'd be
I
a
mean,
real
that
nice
kind-
thing to have, but I think it should be where nobody's attached to it. Nobody lives behind it, and nobody gets anything out of it. Because it's like, it's too fraught, I don't think it's a good idea, but I think that there should be a space that's open that anybody can go to day or night, anytime they want to, and there's like just a sign-up sheet, you know, with some sort of slight organization that every, well, it's premature, but that's, I mean, isn't this here to throw up ideas or what
No, it
people would
would
like?
be great if we could develop an American equivalent to Cinémathèque Française too, but that would take 40 years.
To do that?
But we could have a screening room someplace that was, you know, because there's a lot of stuff. I mean, if somebody were interested in that, I suppose.
Well, if we were having a center for information, right, we'd need a phone or a place where the information came in.
Right.
But it would have to be non-sectarian. I couldn't belong to any
No, it
one
should be
group.
an office that belongs to the corporation.
I mean, if there are 40 people that are organized in it, it shouldn't take such a tremendous amount of, I mean, to donate, you know, each person donates, you know, $10 a month. And then there's a rotating system of who gets to, you know, to be in the place to answer the phones and to, I mean, a few people each day.
I wish Lindsay was here to tell us more about how they organize their corporation in Australia. Do you know about that? Do you know a whole lot about, do you know very much about it, Tim? Like how they really...
Yeah, I mean, one of the realities of the present situation is that their funding is being, public funding for art is being cut way back, so we can't really think about getting involved in real estate and getting, I mean, we have to deal pretty much with ourselves as a resource.
No, but what's interesting is that it's 41 people and that they all are doing very different types of work and have very different ideas politically and how they express them. And in that sense, it's interesting how they came together and hold it together and make it work. Apart from the real estate, which is interesting too, but maybe not conceivable.
Is it premature to propose a vote on whether we form a corporation?
No, I think if we stop talking, it's better.
What?
I think we should stop talking and vote.
We should stop talking.
Well, I mean, just to see, I mean, maybe we should keep on talking, but I just think we're going to complicate things in a way and that people have the general idea of what we're trying to do.
Instead of voting,
want to do.
We try to decide
And then keep on defining it.
what it is that we're...
Yeah, but you have a corporate, I mean,
What?
actually seems to be a question of what form to take, whether it's a union
I
form
mean,
or
are we just going to be
corporation
involved in setting up space for production
We can't, well, let's decide what we want.
and services and
It just seems to decide to take a vote to make a group, to organize or something.
I'd like to have all of the things that have been talked about.
Yeah, I guess so.
But I also, I think to be able to do that kind of thing, we need perhaps the umbrella of that corporation would facilitate all of that.
This is, you're just talking about language now. I mean, sure, now we have a corporation, let's, you know, I'd like to hear what people want out of this corporation.
I think we could
Oh, have we got, like, what do we need? We need a president, a vice president, a treasurer, and...
We should make up a list of services that we need, you know. We should decide whether we want it to be strictly a production corporation and involved with just the production of art or whatever you happen to be producing, or whether you want to get involved with spaces for the showing or the presentation of the production of this art. Whether you wanted to have some kind of political methodology attached to it, or whether you want to keep it apolitical. I mean, there's a lot of things we have to decide, and no one seems to be agreeing on any of them, so we just have to keep talking. Your suggestions?
I think we can handle all sorts of real-world bullshit that nobody likes to deal with, like, I hate to bring up group insurance for medical.
Well, that's good. What do you mean?
No, has anybody been to the dentist lately?
Yeah, that's something we all need.
But I think, for instance, I think Art Workers Coalition or somebody like that already has a program like that developed that would be strengthened by our participation with it, and it would, and we should do that rather than waste a lot of our time trying to get
align
that
ourselves with them.
thing. But those are kinds of things that, for instance, somebody in our group could actually find out about, be responsible for finding out, and then that information, and we can work
Presenting it back.
we can work that out.
I like the idea of access to information, because like sometimes you just can't find information about how to deal with a lab that'll A and B roll Super 8. Or,
There can also be a file of skills, people's skills.
Sure.
Yeah.
And trade skills is, instead of trading money, working for somebody and doing, all right, I'll build you this wall for $50. Why not build this wall and then have this person do something for you? Trading time, trading skills.
What about equipment?
Yeah.
What about it?
Yeah.
Possibility.
Equipment involves real estate too. It's not
Well,
something-
and equipment involves real estate and the equipment and the maintenance of the equipment, and that's, I mean, equipment is sort of problematical at this point, but it's certainly everybody here could do something toward, I mean, we don't all know what we have and what we can use, and we need a,
You can start by listing it for start, so if at least knew if they could get hold of something, and then arrange that where that person could be worked out any number of them, and if you got it, some collective sort of idea.
What about insurance for the equipment?
That already happens between most of us.
Yeah, right, but
It-
you might say
Now,
that.
without a corporation, the question
Yeah.
that I would have is that if I want to find out information about A and B rolling Super 8, I ask somebody who knows about that. And I ask again, and I ask again, and I ask again, and finally I find out who does.
Yeah.
The same thing with borrowing equipment, we're saying who's got a camera that I could use.
well, this could facilitate that.
Well, yeah, I mean, it can facilitate it, but the question is also that if I have a camera and somebody calls me up and I talk with them personally, and I say, okay, I'll trust you with my camera, then it's a matter of personal choice. But if I'm ethical to a union or a corporation, then I feel it's less.
No, it would still be I think it would still be a personal choice. I mean, if that's a problem, it's still a personal choice, right? I don't think that we would impose a group will that says you have to loan your equipment. I mean, nobody wants to do this.
The point that I'm getting at is that if you're trying to form some sort of corporation or union or body or group, and you want to make it fairly dependable and fairly efficient.
Well, see, I
We
have
could
no
apply
idea.
for funds to buy equipment.
No, but
For the
that's another very, what I'm trying to get at is that somebody else has suggested pooling money. Like pooling money. Like say, for instance, if you had 40 people, and 40 people said, yes, we can, like, for our corporation.
Yes, we really need a steam deck. Let's get together and buy a steam deck. We can do that. We could. I mean, which we can't as individuals and
That sort of thing. You get a steam deck, though, you need someplace to put it.
well, we can find a place to put it, but
And you have to figure out a way of having a corporation with totally open membership, dispensing your time on that steam deck.
well, I think at this point that a totally open membership is not practical because we're trying to, I mean, what we have here is like a skeleton, right? But if the thing has to grow, I mean, it has to grow to be able to take new members. I mean, and that's what we have to do, is develop something that will grow. And the growth has
come from flexibility.
I mean, if the way we buy the Steenbeck is everybody kicking in $20 over the course of a year or something, or maybe we would have some kind of benefit, or I don't know how we would raise the money. Maybe somebody here has a contact with some rich person who would love to give us a Steenbeck. You know, I don't know how that kind of thing would occur, but if we had a larger membership, we would have that much larger an input too. I mean, those things have to grow, has to develop organically, and not, I mean, I don't want to go out and drum up membership, and I don't want to extort membership in a union by picketing art shows of non-union artists, and I don't want to, I mean, I want to have something that is, in itself, is attractive and that people would want to be a part of because it's advantageous.
Yeah, but
because
it
it
has
works.
limited
membership, right? Isn't that what you said?
Well, I mean, it does have limited membership at this point. I mean, it doesn't have any membership, but it's form of it, and I mean, it will always be limited. I mean,
Why?
well, the same way that AFL-CIO is limited to, I mean, its membership is finite. I mean, it's
Well,
not,
what's the criteria
I'm
for
not putting any
membership here, though?
restrictions
I
on.
think we should determine that. I mean, if it's all artists, then anybody who is and says they're an artist, then obviously is eligible to join.
Yeah.
Okay, living artists.
Living artists.
But dead artists might be good for identification.
Give them honorariums.
Double identity.
Make it like they have to be represented by.
Yes,
When's
the bill
with
of
the-
Mark Rothko.
Good money back
Yeah,
up.
that would probably be fine. But I mean, those kinds of problems though have more to do with the bylaws and the actual, which we can develop. But before we do that, we have to agree to try to do it. I mean, it's a kind of commitment given on faith. Well, so far, I have film information, skills that are negotiable, and healthcare as a subject for research, and an equipment list.
I think
Are
the
there
thing
any
about
other
equipment,
suggestions?
I think the thing about like buying things or buying real estate is stupid at this point.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
why we wanted to have.
Unless we had like people donate stuff.
Yeah, because if we had like group insurance for equipment, then people could loan, a lot of people have equipment, and if you just buy it, there's a lot of things that we all need that you couldn't, it'd be pretty hard to say we want to see that because somebody else would want to such and such, and so, you know, so to buy it would be stupid.
Colleen's right, it's a lot easier to rent equipment if you have a corporation.
Yeah, because we would
Yeah.
have a pool of
Like an
money
organization
for
behind it that can put down a deposit.
But if we buy equipment, we could steal it if we have insurance and get the money and then get new equipment as well. And have the money. And I can sell the other equipment, double it.
You make lots of money, right?
It's a non-profit corporation.
That's what we've happened.
Well, okay, so we have to find out about buying versus renting.
Well,
Is
You know, what
that-
you're saying is how can a whole group buy Steenbeck when
some people,
80% of the people aren't doing films?
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't,
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
unless,
unless the other 80% believed that the filmmaking was important enough to support that much, right? Which I would, even though I haven't been making any films. I like to think about making films, and I think for people who are already making films that it's important enough that I would contribute $20 towards that happening with a group of
Yeah, but
10 or 15 of my
But the
friends.
only
But there's
question, not
no-
the only thing we can do.
Yeah, right.
No,
because-
there are lots of other things.
Lots of
too.
other things.
But it could come to the point where you're paying like $50 a month for, I mean, I'm like $50 a month to pay for like all this other stuff.
Yeah, well, we have to get on the subject of what
You have to
we
find
do
a
and
job.
what we have.
Yeah. I think at this point, the rental equipment
You don't work.
sounds more thought.
Statistics made where it says there's
I'm
over
more interested in
100,000
union
artists in New York.
corporation.
And I think most of us here have like wider conceptions of what artists are anyway, so it's probably 200,000. So we have to have some means of protection or discrimination, but we still have to retain an openness that doesn't.
The only problem I see with the union is that you immediately,
Well, I mean, like we just maybe have it
I mean,
open
you
and people can
immediately
apply
put
or
yourself
someone talk to
in
us
a
and-
political arena.
Absolutely.
Wait a minute,
So
there's,
what?
there's a way of doing this, isn't there? Then you mix other groups. I mean,
Why don't we-
I have the
why
more
don't we-
expensive,
are in a
say, the
political arena.
union, the more members they have.
We understand our context in that arena. And we form
No, but I mean, it
Well,
could,
I think 'cause
we
all
are,
disagree with each other, so we can't be on basic.
I mean, I don't think that we have to be.
in a political context.
Not necessarily. I mean, it exists, right, and we are, but as a group, we don't have to deal with each other on a political level.
Essentially, and it's pretty general.
well, it's,
Formation of a corporation with limited membership on the basis of recommendation of two members to me is a political.
Well, that may not, I mean, it doesn't have to be on the basis of recommendation of two members. I mean, that is purely for the sake of proposal, right? And it's a point of discussion, it's nothing else.
But you can only discuss on either side of one line, either it's on the basis of recommendation or it's on the basis of open membership.
Okay, say it's on the basis of open membership. But I still don't think that at this point, particularly, that we're in a position to go out and try and recruit new members.
I don't think you'd have to recruit, but I think, as many people then would wish to be a part of it. Then if there'd be like then later maybe there'd be 20 people that would wish to participate and get the benefits of it. So then 20 people could organize in the same format, and then 20 more people and 20 more people. But within there would be like separate people that could work. It might be small enough to work together. And there'd be, like this, United States has 50 states, wherever, and they just keep on forming other states, so that within that they could function.
Yeah, but they're still under government control.
Right.
So it's, you want
Why is a
factionalism.
limited union or a limited
No, but just
amount of people?
Just so they could watch and see.
Well, I think that it's, the only reason I'm talking in terms of that is because I think that it's practical at this point.
There would be
Maybe 40 people can do something together, but if suddenly, as we have to, like the individual that we select to be the president of whatever it is that we create, feels like he's responsible to 200 people or something, then the whole thing becomes much more ponderous and difficult to work with.
I think then he resigns.
I think that at the moment we shouldn't be thinking of power in terms of an externalized thing. I think we have enough problems just resolving the power issues within this
think
group.
restricting the membership is just imposing another problem. I think the aim of the thing should be collectivization instead of like of artists. Anyway, that's what we're here for. This is as arbitrary a collection of people as you can imagine anyway.
Yeah, it is. And everything's not reason why impulse and power. That's exactly what we're talking about. The power to buy bulk government large amounts, the power to buy insurance, the power to get equipment and to get recognition, the power to represent each other legally, to assure ourselves.
Right, but that's power, that's power that we could have immediately, right? All of those things are kinds of things that we can have right now, and it's not at all dependent on having broader based support. And if we as a group succeed in achieving these kinds of goals with the power that we have as this size group, I think that we will spontaneously gain membership. I mean, I'm sure that other people would want to participate in it because it would be to their advantage, which is very different from going out and trying to get people together so that we can have power. We have to have, I mean, if we agree to do this, we will have power. And it will be, I mean, it will be a beginning, right? Now, in terms of like, I mean, as a general goal, yes, I think that it's the concept of a union and something that is completely open is ideal, and I think that we should work towards that.
Actually, just being a union doesn't mean it's completely open. Has anybody tried to get into?
Unions are very difficult to get into.
A union?
And they're very rigid bureaucratic structures, and they're fraught with corruption and all kinds of weird politics. You know, they're not.
Is that a condemnation of the whole principle?
No, it's just an observation of what they are.
It's still much better than not having it.
And then the only reason that their membership has the wages and the benefits that they have, however corrupt they are.
Yeah, but they don't really address themselves to the real problem, which is why that's even necessary to begin with.
I don't think the leadership.
Well, it's necessary because it's an adversary situation. Now, maybe we have to decide whether we're in an adversary situation.
We are, certainly, of course we are. That's the whole principle.
So who's our adversary? Define our adversary. Is it other artists, or is it the museum system, or is it real estate?
I think
it's.
Well, if we had a union that drew up specific wages that we were willing to work for different situations, and obviously they try to manipulate each individual. I mean, like a museum will offer one person $1,000 and the other person $50, and if you don't go for that in a unionized way, then you know who your adversary is, and we are working for wages for different situations.
But in this immediate situation, we're sort of we're our own adversaries. I mean, and it has to do with our own ambivalence about a commitment to a group thing. I mean, it's more like everybody in America's own worst enemy is themselves, right? Basically.
Well, individualism is the enemy.
Yeah.
And that's the concept that you're talking about is individualism.
Well, I think that an individual identity is essential to human existence, but I'm not saying that we should all be, I mean, I'm trying to develop some sort of group thing that's open to more people.
Wait a minute, what did you say?
I don't think we really have to worry about unlimited membership.
In terms of my,
We're trying to develop it, right?
What I'm talking about, what I'm trying to develop in my immediate conversation.
I see, you know,
an idea
unlimited membership being like sort of like we're not going to have people beating our doors down.
Speaking for everybody because I'm not.
No, it's not a facet of a union at all. Because unions don't have unlimited membership. There's no way in the world they have unlimited membership.
The thing is that
it's a facet of an organization that's set up to have unlimited membership, to encompass as many people as possible.
It limits its membership when its membership fills the job demand.
So New York needs
So we have
15
about
artists
one
a year
member.
to sell all the artists themselves.
So what? So wait, we're about 100,000, we're not possible to get at least 100,000, but to do cities like we're about how many artists are in New York, for instance. There's no reason why we should.
No, absolutely not. All I'm saying is I don't think it's going to happen overnight. We're going to have 100,000 people meeting this law.
But the thing is that part of, I mean,
I'm not saying we ought to try and have 100,000 people overnight. But on
But
what basis do we organize it?
but if you're talking about job demand, who's demanding this job from us?
Nobody.
which,
That was an example of why this is a completely different situation.
right, and that's why I don't think that a union as a model is really ideal, because there isn't anybody that's.
But there are jobs,
we
everyone
do
here
some-
exists in some form or another.
Well, within our
group,
within our immediate group, we have job demands, and there are job demands that, I mean, there are jobs available for everybody here with other people here.
I mean, we could go in as an actual union, you know, like present ourselves as a union, affiliate as a union. So every job we got was,
Well, we could.
Who are you referring to? Oh, yeah.
There's another possibility which comes to my mind, which is just going to be employment possibilities. That say, for instance, if I was working, like if I got a job, like a job, like a job, okay, like a carpentry job or something, apply for a job, something like that, then I would turn it over to the union to say, well, refer somebody within the union to this job, so that for themselves, helping each other, we can return like somebody who's work will get it within the union, and that would make being in the union more desirable than not being in the union in terms of just basic food, survival, clothing. That's a possibility also.
I think we all do that anyway.
That was a really good idea.
Yeah.
Sort of formalization of what we already do.
well, yeah, that's basically what we're talking about already. Formalisation is sort of a collectivisation of sort of processes.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a place then where people could call into, say they, some big place wanted jobs, so they could call this union. And they could be like listing.
Our phone number.
Yeah, so that, they wouldn't be fumbling around, they'd know they could get in touch with us.
Yeah, so for example, somebody works in graphic design or sign painting or anything, I mean, like loft design or, somebody wants, we have a list of even of the things that we can do, that we have people doing such and such and such and such and such. And that even beyond that, we have a pool of tools, that we have a pool of materials, we have a pool of equipment.
Yeah, they could train each other so we could all do
Yeah,
it.
sure. I mean, there's no reason why. Say, for instance, we get a contract on a job that says we have to print up. Say we have a printing press. Somehow we get a printing press, okay? Now we can use that for a commercial process where somebody gives us a printing job. We can also use it for ourselves to print. And so we make a commercial job where we pay for the press. And we pay for our own labor. And we also get the money left over to put out a magazine or to put out a booklet, okay? So we do it like a 50-50 thing.
And get clouded by the union.
Yeah, right. And it's
Okay, good.
Oh, you have to have a basement, a sub-basement to do all sorts of illicit affairs.
We didn't get caught by the union if we were a union.
Oh, yeah, that's when you really get.
We were infringing on their territory. I mean, you can't have some guy who's in the carpenters union doing electrical work. They'll freak.
The two
Especially if
electrical
this is a
unions in
union
New
for
York
artists to
warrant
say, well, you
taxes.
can do your art.
John Poole union labor.
No, well, say with printing, what somebody suggested is that it might be possible because a lot of the printing industry is subsidized by the government, and that it's a non-profit corporation working in arts for public, that we could get time, free time on the subsidized printing time, the time that's subsidized by the government, right? And there are programs for doing that, which is better than us setting up a funky press. It might mean that once a month we would be allotted 3 hours on the web press at some place, and we could run off 5,000 40-page things, which would be more intelligent in a certain way if that's what we were interested in doing, a better approach to it.
Sure, I mean, if a printer took over someone's printing job and by taking that job they were giving themselves the opportunity of being open to I mean, if it's a good job and it's a good deal and stuff like that, then it leaves themselves open to a lot of work, right?
There's
Those sort of bargaining power and what is it,
I mean, just as a story is now when they had these strikes in Russia, say during the kind of revolution, at a certain point workers went over and they were sending out this workers' newspaper. People were informed of the progress of the revolution. I don't know exactly the name, but I know the exact details. What I do know is that all the workers in one particular plant took over the plant and started printing the newspaper. And they wouldn't let the police in protest it or that sort of thing. They kept on printing. They worked all night, like around the clock. And then they would ship to another plant. And then they would ship to another plant. And the only concept that I could understand about that was that somehow the material object, the presses and the labor were worth something. Okay, I mean, it's just like a material object, a press, a machine, is worth something. You can go to it at any time and utilize it. And that somehow you have to go through a bureaucratic process to get allotted 3 hours on a machine. It doesn't seem the same to me as owning a machine. Okay?
Well, it isn't. It has certain advantages. I mean, for instance, for us to own a web press, we would have to become a printing company, right, and devote full time to running. I mean, to having that kind of bureaucracy and that kind of business. And it seems better to have access to one or two of them, or however many we need access to. I mean, once it's regularized, right, so that you know that on a certain day of every month you have it, then it's less trouble than having the press, because you're not responsible for maintaining it or anything. You're only responsible for getting your copy to the printer on time, instead of maintaining that machine, which takes time, right?
Yes, it does.
And it's a capital investment, and part of, we don't want to have a capital investment because that's disruptive in terms of what the best way for the group to function, because as soon as we start having a press, then the people who aren't at all interested in the press would be maybe resentful of the amount of money that the press would get. But if as a group we just automatically had access to one, then any member of the group could contribute to whatever it was we were having printed once a month. I mean, could put stuff in it without
that's sort of in the group's infancy. Like maybe instead of worrying about acquiring material or acquiring equipment, we could start out by acquiring contacts with a lot of the kind of nets of the situations that exist already, like plugging in with Millennium so that we could use their film equipment. Plugging in with, there's an auto repair co-op that exists in Brooklyn. There's a New York State, or the New York City Council, Metropolitan Council on Housing, like I'm in a rent strike right now, our building. And like they've been wonderful, they've done everything, right? Plugging in with them for people who are going through the landlord trip. There's help, like you said, the healthcare setup. Setting up and just like becoming an organization, sort of, I guess, a union.
We're using the power of all the members as sort of like as a solid support structure in getting cheap jobs and good jobs and so on and so on and so on. Done.
But yeah, and those situations already exist, so if we can like just plug into them, and we'd be giving them something, we'd be giving them time and money in return, using their facilities and their know-how. Yeah, that's another thing, is to decide how much time everybody wants to put into this.
Krista, you went to see, what's that place?
Yeah, there's a new started called Artworks, and it's primarily set up to find artist jobs. But they only find jobs for artists. It's about 2 months old.
What sort of jobs? Just anything? Or?
Well, they're pretty nice. You just go in there and talk to the counselor and tell her what kind of things you can do, and she writes it all down.
Where is this?
No. It's at 225 Fifth Avenue.
Aren't they oriented towards sort of full-time jobs though? Like finding it's like really,
No, they
you
find
could go in for
freelance.
one-day things?
Yeah.
That's good.
It's a foundation for the community of artists is what it's called, this project.
Oh, right, right.
You have to make an appointment like 2 or 3 weeks in advance.
I don't think so, I just went down. Yeah, I
Really?
just went down and talked to them, and they put out this newspaper, which was really great, because they just wrote this scathing review of the clock tower and the whole organization. So I'll pass that on. It's really good.
It's the Art Workers Coalition?
No, it's
Gotcha.
called Artworks.
Oh.
And the newspaper's called
Art Workers News?
Artwork News. Everything.
Well, that may be.
Who is it that sent it out?
It's called Foundation for the Community of Artists.
They have a help fund, right? You join?
Yeah, they do.
So it might be just better to support a structure that's already happening and just buy sort of mass membership,
Instead
right?
of duplicating efforts.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe information catalog or resource catalog would be a couple of things you could file and stuff. Because I don't think we probably want to spend our time organizing $100.
Well, that's the problem. If everyone starts
Yeah, well,
organizing,
that's one of the things we have to, I guess we have to compile a list of all of the things that are going
There already is a
on.
list. If you get the New York State Council annual report, you'll see exactly what organizations exist and how much money they get from the council.
But does it define in there what the purposes of the agencies are?
And what the grants are for.
Is that here? I left that here, Paula. Yeah, I left it on the table when it came out. Is it lost?
It's probably in the shuffle.
That's free to anybody that wants to call them or send it. Yeah, we should take over the distribution system, really. I mean, that's what the union's about.
Yeah, the money.
Of artwork.
Of films,
Films,
videotapes?
of artwork.
One that you would find when looking at the
Sell our
report
own.
is the proportion of money that goes to art administrators as opposed to
Artists.
artists.
Yeah.
And if that's something that a group like this would address itself to, then that would be a function, that would be unique to it. I mean, I think before you go into setting up a corporation, you have to know the territory pretty much and see what's being covered. And new non-profit groups start up every other day, It's like, it's really something that's very big right now. So you'd be well advised to finding out what are the areas specifically and not take on too much, You can have a lot of people, but focus it so that it doesn't become another big bureaucracy, because bureaucracy develops when you have a lot of projects and a lot of people and everybody has to know what everyone else is doing, That's how things accumulate.
And that's to be avoided, right?
Well, one thing about being sort of like a union is that if you want to block that public funding going to administrators, you can do that as a group of artists, as opposed to one of us saying to any one of the public funded places that saying, well, they say, well, you get $50 and no money, or to somebody else $3,000. But as a group, we can say we want a flat fee for whatever amount of time we're spending, plus the materials that we use. What? We can't do that as a corporation?
You have to get expenses.
Instead of joining the school, there's another one of the main towns.
Right. That's why a union's a more interesting idea than.
Because, that's a good point, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you can form a corporation to use, like, because of the tax stuff, but a union's more interesting in terms of any kind of functional power. Right. Right.
I know a couple of non-profit corporations.
Yeah, we all do.
Yeah, me too. It's like individuals.
Swift in making applications. They make thousands of applications, and there's no indication of what they are, who they are, and they're all treated the same.
Well, why doesn't somebody investigate the trip of becoming a union? I have no idea where you go to find out what you do to become a union, but I'm sure there's some procedure.
You say you are, and then you enlist.
Are they here in New York at all? Are they just in London?
They're in London, but they have a very strict, they were formed, they came out of a political party in England, and they're very kind of limited. They're limited to the membership of that party, pretty much it seems. I don't know, that was about 2 years ago, so I don't know what they are now. But it might be interesting to talk about that.
I remember something from a year back or so. People talking about if you had a certain number of people to present to NEA, for instance, like 200 people, 200 artists, that they were more apt to accept a large batch of artists rather than if they each applied individually.
What, for funding?
For grants.
Yeah, but
I'm not really sure. I just remember somebody bringing
Well,
it up.
that relates to places like the Clock Tower trying to fill their quota of people that they're going to present to the public over the course of the year. You know, and having their record of achievement, and then getting an enormous grant the following year.
And then going to California.
And then from California to Paris, and from Paris to Bombay, back again.
Take trips.
I have a feeling though with that you had to be a definite number. Like you go to them with like a set number of people.
That's what I
and
thought, like 200 people.
yeah, so then that means that you can't ask, include more, it's closed then.
Why not 5 sets of 200?
Yeah.
Well, if we were attempting to start something that we all agreed was a union, then how would that alter the kinds of goals that we would have for what it would do for us? I mean, and the sort of the way, how would we think about it differently than, maybe we should try and define that difference and make a decision somewhere in that area.
Well, if we had a fee scale and we had a set of standards that we worked under, that we as a group decided that was what was happening, then we'd have an effective lever against people who are trying to manipulate us otherwise. And also people who scabbed we could talk to them and say, look, don't go giving, we're all scabs at this point because we don't have any agreements, so we all take what we can get, right?
But
if we agree on what we want,
we can make all of those kinds of agreements without calling ourselves a union, or it's not that I want to avoid it, but a union is, I'm just trying to define the difference. I want to know what the real difference is, and that doesn't seem like one of the defining differences.
I think it is one of the defining differences. The only difference between a union and a corporation is that a union is based on
well, a union is a type of corporation. We've agreed on that.
Incorporated union its foundation is protecting and defending its members in their attempts to gain income from what they do.
Yeah.
that's a very clear definition between the union and corporations.
But, I mean, if we're gonna talk to people who aren't members of the union who are scabbing, that might mean talking to a Rauschenberg or somebody who's clearly not the kinds of problems that we have are not relevant to him, and there's no reason in the world why he would, you know, I mean, it just isn't, those things aren't. Yeah, I mean, he's all for artist royalties and supports that, but his 5% is a lot bigger than what our 5% would be. Our 5%
minimum.
Minimum scale, we don't talk in terms of maximum.
Right.
In terms of minimum scale,
Yeah.
if you're a union club, you said that you can't sit, if the guy says I only give you $5, what do you say?
I think that we should definitely make those kinds of agreements among ourselves, that, and whoever else would become a member would also be subject to that same kind of agreement, right? I mean, that would be one of the agreements of the corporation. I don't think, I mean, people who install exhibits of paintings or installations should also get fees for that, even if they don't sell any of their paintings or don't sell what it, you know, if they don't make money on what they're doing. I mean, but sometimes that's not, you know, if somebody is just doing it, then it's I mean, there are lots of those kinds of things, but we're still, our real problems. Suppose we do decide not to do a performance for less than $200 and we all agree, and we all continue doing the same number of performances or film exhibitions or painting exhibitions that we do now, we're still not going to make enough money on that to survive, and we have these other problems that don't have anything to do with the demand for our services. It has more to do with creating a demand for our services, which is more of a kind of business enterprise. I mean, like setting up distribution systems and